Good morning. It's Monday, January 19th, and I'm at Hillcrest Park again. I'm on a path, dirt path right now. I just did 4 rounds of those stairs. Anyways, what I wanted to talk today about is grief, loss, and celebration of life, and the differences in cultures and the differences even in what I did for my mom and for my dad. So, my dad died in the Philippines in 2019, and so we went over there to take care of him. And I was um, pretty much uh, involved in his medical care, his care uh, that last year of his life. And and I knew that I knew the conditions he had, and I knew that I would be losing him, and it was the time that I had to have closure on things and bring out stuff, to get it off my chest, and we were able to reconcile and have forgiveness and to let that go, which was really important to let that go. And as soon as I did that, and there was forgiveness and reconciliation, and my mom, dad, and I cried, and I said, I loved you both, and it was the best healing thing that I'd ever given myself and given my parents. And so, what happens when you forgive somebody, and you can forgive them and still love them? Uh, it opened up, it unloaded a lot of stuff that I'd been carrying around for a long time, and it made space. It made when you purge that out of you, and then you have more space to fill it with love. And so I was able to be filled up in an unimaginable way. I never thought that I'd be able to do that, and it was something that I consciously did, and I consciously, pursued to do that, to have dialogue and a clearing and forgiveness, and it just opened up more space for love. And he died in the Philippines, and what they do in the Philippines is very different from what they do here. And so let me just tell you what happened um, in the um, in the wake. It's actually a wake. So my father was in a casket in the living room in our house in the Philippines for 9 days. And I understand that they have these wakes in the Philippines for sometimes up to 40 days. My mom set the days, and she said 9 days. And what happens is it allows a lot of the people in the old days to come from the farms far away, or the islands far away, so that they could have this celebration of life, this week for the departed. And it allows the people from overseas to come and celebrate and grieve and say goodbye and visit with the family, etc. So we had this wait for 9 days. My dad in the living room. So we had a lot of flowers, a lot of food every day. All the visitors would come, and you just provided them something to snack on, something to eat. And also, the the nuns from the Catholic Church, the nearby church that they go to, would come at every single day for at 5:30 to pray. So they would have the Catholic prayers. So you guys all know what that is, maybe. but they have the rosary beads. And so in the course of the 9 days of the wake, they also told us that the light had to be on, and that he, our departed loved one, my dad, couldn't be alone, and the light had to always be on. And he had to have a family member there awake to sit vigil, actually, just in case in the old days, they would wake up. But so it was awake to sit vigil with the departed in case he woke up. But it was, I thought, okay, well, I guess we have to guard him, or, our evil spirits. I didn't quite understand. But knowing in the old days that, sometimes people would wake up. So we had this wake, and we took turns, and sometimes I would be awakened at 2:30, or my brothers would be awakened at that time, and I'd go down there and visit with my dad, or be with my dad, or sit with my dad. And usually there's another sibling there also sitting there. And in the course of sitting vigil and prayers, and saying goodbye to all the visitors, saying goodbye to every single day, watching my dad and my mom, and we're saying goodbye to my dad, it really allowed for the grief and the expressions of grief and the expressions of sorrow, and the letting go and saying goodbye. It took time, and we were allowed to have our feelings and emotions, and it was a process of acknowledging the finality. And so when the day came for the burial, it was another celebration, because we had been grieving the loss, the impending loss, when he was sick, and we were taking care of him, and then the impending finality of his burial, when we were sitting vigil, and he was in the coffin in the living room. And then we had the service at the church, and then we had the burial, and then we had the reception afterwards. But the whole process was so healing for us, for all of us. And we were letting go together. We were siblings. My mother was still there. And so everything that is going to be in the pressure cooker in any of the family member, it's going to percolate up. And so that allowed all of that to happen, and to be percolated and expressed. And there was a lot of anger, finger pointing, blaming. Everybody was processing in their own way, in their own time. And anything that was still unprocessed or unresolved or still lingering just kind of percolated, and they were able to express it. And I thought that was just really, really healing. And my mom, it was very different. I brought her to my house, and she was in my house almost over 2.5 years. And we had, I had to take care of her. I had to have caregivers around the clock, because it was really overwhelming. And we didn't have that closure. I mean, it was just, I was going through a lot of unresolved stuff in myself, actually all my siblings. And so we all would, launch attacks. We come in, and guns blaring, and emotions are high, then they're low, and then we hate each other, then we love each other. And so that went. And my mother, God bless her, she was just very tolerant. She never said anything bad, she never said anything negative. She just, for almost 3 years, just let everybody just process, and everybody just vent and say what they needed to say. She watched me struggle through all that, and I cried a lot while she was there. And then she died, and they took her away. And they took the body away, and they took all the equipment away, all the hissing oxygen, everything, all the noisemakers. the air bed, the oxygen. That's all this noise, and all the caregivers stopped, and the social workers, all those people stopped. And then we didn't see her again until the 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 open casket memorial at Forest Lawn the night before she got buried. So we had that one evening that we were with her while she was, you know, in her casket, and a lot of people came to say goodbye. So it was just that evening, and then the next day we had the funeral, and then I I couldn't. I left. I couldn't watch her descend into the ground. I left. My brother stayed, and they watched it being lowered. Um, I for some reason couldn't do that. So a lot of that I processed while my dad was still with us in the living room was unprocessed. And so, in a month later, after I'd taken care of everything, and I'm at my house, and it's very, very, very quiet, and all of a sudden, that's when grief comes like a tsunami, and the emotions were just overwhelming, and I was just trying to take care of everything for all, making all the preparations and everything that I need to do, all the decisions I needed to do for the the ceremony and everything. I was just on survival. I had to take care of everything else before I took care of myself. So then that vacuum, that silence was a time where I had to start processing. And then I thought, I needed some help, and I called up my friend who's like a life coach, and she came to visit me at my house twice a month for several months. I think from March to September, trying to process that. And finally I did, and I got healthier, and I got better. And at the end of the year, I was looking forward to leaving that grief and loss in 2025 and having a clearing and a fresh start, looking forward to a new year, and with optimism and hope. And so I just really wanted to say that the difference between the Filipino way of having that loved one in the house and having everybody come, and in the process of saying goodbye, and all the grief, you're allowed to feel it and express it, and then the way we do it here, it's very clinical. They're in the hospital, they're in the hospice, they're in an institution, then they die, they take them away, you never really see them. And most of the time, people in America have closed caskets, so it's very, that's the way they do it. It's not really, it's almost like you don't know, there's not the finality, the closure that I felt in the Philippines. And so it's a cultural thing. And I just thought that how we handled it with my dad, just allowing him to be with us while we processed, versus the really clinical way that we did it here for my mom in America. So I just wanted to share the difference of that, and I hope that if you have family, take care of all the arrangements. You could take care of all the arrangements ahead of time, have it paid for, have all the decision making, up to, what dress you're going to wear and stuff. Because I had a lady do that, and her family was so relieved. I mean, she even chose her earrings, her gown, her shoes, her wig, etc. And it was she took all her kids to shop for their funeral clothes for her funeral, and it was she was very relieved. She got to choose everything, and the husband was going to be deer in the headlights anyway when this whole thing happened, and she took care of everything. She had everything written down. She arranged for everything, and it helped him And if you could do that, that's great. If you have family, just make sure that if you have your parents still, just tell hug them, tell them you love them, have some closure, have some forgiveness in your heart for both. you know you forgive your parents, parents can forgive you, and there's a clearing for more love to be manifest in your relationship. So that's it.